Ryan, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Kay. Well, good to see you, buddy.
Likewise, likewise. How's that ankle feeling?
It's there, getting better, starting to get on the mend, I guess you'd say.
I mean, I thought amputation was a real, option for you at one
You
point.
know, a month ago, I would have probably went with it. Yeah, it's been no
So
fun.
this is one of the freakiest hunting accidents that I've ever heard of.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely was nothing, out of the ordinary that I was doing. Something I've done probably I don't even know how many times in my life, and ended up me being in the hospital and surgery and all kinds of fun stuff. So,
So what happened?
man, I was filling feeders, and
Y'all don't laugh. This is serious.
yeah, I was. It was, and people asked me how many drinks did I have, and it was 8:30 in the morning, so the answer was zero.
Uh-huh.
And we were actually getting ready to leave. Been at the ranch for 4 or 5 days, and I've cleaned like 7 or 8 deer with super sharp knives. I've done everything I could to injure myself before then that you would typically see with a hunting injury.
Hmm.
And I was filling the feeder by the house. That way, next time we got there, there would be deer to see because the feeder
Hmm.
was empty. And it was one of those feeders that had a built-in ladder and a nice little platform. So a buddy of mine pulled his truck up close. I climbed the ladder. He handed me the corn from the back of the truck, and I was just pouring it in the feeder and got it filled up. And I came down the ladder, got to the last little rung, and maybe a foot off the ground, and just kind of jumped back and down. And when I hit the ground, I immediately felt the pop, and then sat down on my butt. And my buddy's like, "What? You all right?" And I was like, "I think I broke my ankle." He's like, "Quit
Oh,
messing with me. You can't break your ankle like that." I said, "No, something's wrong. I need help. Help and get me up." And by the time he got me up, my ankle was already swollen to where we thought we were going to have to cut my boot to get it off.
golly.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just a freak deal.
A
And
foot.
yeah, a foot.
You're not
Now,
old and you're not like grossly
I
overweight or anything. What's your problem?
I don't know, man. I guess bad genes. I don't know, man. But I will say that the ground, so about a week or two before, we had pretty good rain at the ranch. And
Mhm.
there's obviously a lot of deer that come to the house feeder because it's like a little sanctuary. And there was a lot of like deer tracks in the where they were indented in the mud, and then it got dry, obviously, and
Right.
super hard. I mean, it was hard as concrete. I think you could hit the mud with a hammer and not even crack it. And I think just the combination of the jump back and the way the ground was very uneven, and where I landed, it just wobbled on me real quick, and it ended up I tore both my peroneal tendons, which are the ones that run down the side of your
Mhm.
ankle, and then every ligament in between the two. So
Oh, man.
yeah, and I didn't tear them crossways or horizontally. I tore them laterally in the tendon, so it split the tendon like you
Oh,
like think about like oh, when you clean deer, it's like taking the tendon and just peeling it apart this way instead of separating it long ways and tearing it. So
mhm. Mm.
yeah, it was
So,
uh it was not a
how
fun
long did
experience.
you have to wait before you could have surgery to fix it?
Oh well, I was in Freer when it happened, so I was like, man, I need to go to the hospital. And all right, he's like, I'll take you to Laredo. And I'm like, I don't think I want to go to the hospital in Laredo.
Right.
I don't know anybody there. My doctors are all over here in Beaumont and in Houston. So I called a buddy of mine who's a doctor, kind of like, you and Jeff.
Hmm.
And I said, hey, this is what happened. He's like, is the bone sticking out? Or are you bleeding? No, sir. Can you feel your heartbeat in the veins going across the top of your foot? Yes. Can you wiggle your toes? Yes. Get in the truck and go home. So 6.5 hour drive back home with the busted ankle. Get in the car with the wife. On the way to the hospital, we have a blowout in
Mm.
her car. So I have to phone a friend to come change the tire for me on the side of the road because I'm obviously incapacitated and she's
Yeah.
not going to be able to do it quickly. So luckily, a friend came, did that, make it to the hospital, finally get a pain shot after being in this excruciating pain. At that point, it was just pretty much like,
I don't, does it hurt bad when you tear every ligament in your ankle?
yeah, yeah, it's not fun. And the swelling is incredible. That thing swelled up like the size of a grapefruit or a softball. And
Mm.
I'm not a big guy, so my ankles aren't big to begin with. And yeah, so I do that. And then I got lucky, and I will say the people over at the Fondren Orthopedic Hospital in Houston, they are very good at their jobs and very quick as far as getting somebody in on appointments. So the next Tuesday, this was on a Friday. Tuesday, I get into Fondren, puts me in a cast and says, right now we need to stabilize it because your soft tissue damage is so bad that we can see it on the x-rays that the hospital did on Friday. And if we do an MRI right now, it's going to be inconclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat 2 weeks in a hard cast, went back. She took the cast off, tried to move the ankle. I about woke everybody up in the hospital, I think, in agonizing pain. And because if you can imagine not moving something for 2 weeks and then trying to move it and it's all torn up, so go down, do the MRI. Next day she calls me and she goes, I've seen worse ankle injuries from NFL football players and people who've been in absolutely severe car wrecks. She goes, how did you do this again? I said, I jumped a foot off a ladder. And she's like, it's just so hard for me to believe. And I said, that is it. There, I have no reason to tell a different story because it's exactly what happened. And so about a week and a half later, we did surgery, and we could have done it sooner, but it was coming up on Thanksgiving. And my youngest, I promised him that we were going to let him shoot his first deer this year. And so, I was in an air cast at this point, waiting on surgery, and I'm like, well, you can't mess it up anymore. So I better stick to my word because after surgery, there's no telling if I'm going to go to the ranch or deer hunt or anything again.
Yeah, no,
so
it messed up your fall for sure.
Yeah, so I took him deer hunting, and then he got his first buck. I think you saw the pig. Actually, I think he posted the picture.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went to have surgery, and I'm about 7 weeks post-op now, something like that. And I just got out of my air cast that I've been living in, and I'm in an actual ankle brace with a tennis shoe. So starting to get there. I start therapy next week.
Okay. I heard a rumor that you, after surgery, were incapacitated to the point where you couldn't get out of your armchair.
Oh, yeah.
And your wife had to bring you a bucket to pee in. You just roll over and pee because you couldn't get to the bathroom.
I will tell you, the first 4 days after surgery were the most. I mean, I've had a knee surgery and a shoulder surgery. I don't know what it was about the ankle surgery or what, but I literally lived in a chair, and it was a chair that you could invert. The owner of our company had it sent to my house because I guess his brother had both his ankles broken, falling from a tree stand. So he kind of had an idea what I was about
like to go. A real hunting accident.
Yeah, like a real hunting accident. Like actually fell 15 foot out of a tree, not jumping off a foot ladder. But anyways, so I was inverted, like feet way up in the air, head down close to the ground that's the only way I could get any relief. And the doctor told me, you're going to have to take painkillers. And I'm not very good with painkillers. They make me sick, and I didn't want to
like them. Like, I don't the Chappelle bit where he's a crackhead and he's like itching his.
Yeah.
Like if I take anything with codeine in it, that's me.
Yeah, that's me.
I can't. I just feel like I want to scratch my face off.
Yeah, but buddy, let me tell you, it was the better alternative in that ankle pain. And so I was just incapacitated, man. Thankfully, the wife was a trooper and kept me kept a bucket.
Hopefully, you didn't have to go number 2 in the bucket.
No,
but those painkillers will stop a lot of people up anyway.
Exactly, that didn't happen till way after I got off painkillers. That goes. But no,
let me tell you the story of my buddy. I won't say his name. He's a fishing guide on Lake X, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And he had a husband and wife fishing with him. And he said he got the bubble gut so bad, he just told them to go to the front of the boat. It's the middle of winter time. And he had to crap in a bucket in front of a man and his wife.
Oh my God.
I'm still friends with him. I don't think they ever rebooked, though. I'll tell you.
Oh, probably not. They probably traumatized after that. Oh, man. But yeah, so I'm hoping and praying that I can get this thing rehabbed enough for June.
Yeah, because we're supposed to go to Africa.
Yeah, that's my target date. So we'll see. Because it's one thing to walk on the concrete. It's another thing to walk in Africa. And we do a lot of walking in Africa. So.
Yeah. So you are no stranger to Africa. You went with me, in 2022? Or was that 2023?
2023. 2023. Okay. I went back.
You hated it so much you went back
Yeah.
without me like 6 months later.
6 months later, yeah. So I went by myself too. No group, no nothing. Just showed up in
Yeah.
Africa,
You're
and
like, I need
actually
to
knew
get one of
people.
those Cape Buffalo things.
I did one of those Cape Buffalo things. Yep, great hunt. It was fun. I brought the bow on the
Uh-huh.
second one, and
I
did a
saw.
little
I
bit.
watched your video just dropped,
Yeah.
and I was watching that. So you got a black Impala with your bow. You got a
Yep.
sable
Yep. Sable.
with your
Yep.
bow.
Yep. Sable was a poke. That was a long poke, and farthest shot I ever made on an animal. But it was one of those deals. I was locked in and felt good about it, so we
How
let it
far was
fly.
that?
78.
Oh, see, I don't ever even shoot past 60.
Yeah,
It's
78.
out of my skill set there. So
Yeah, I've shot. I shot out to 70, 80, 90 before a lot. I don't do it often, but like before I go out west to a mule deer hunt or out to Africa, I did have it dialed in there on my roller. So
yeah.
but yeah, it was a fun hunt, man. I don't think I'll ever top the kudu that I killed this last go around.
That thing was a monster. And you shot that one with the rifle at like
I
200
shot that with
yards
a
or something.
rifle. Yeah, it was like 220 yards. I knew he was big because we've been looking for kudu for 3 days now and doing a little shooting in between. You know how Africa is. You kind of take what it gives you. And man, when we spotted this kudu, and the first one we spotted on this new ranch, we were just kind of ranch hopping in the tribal area, and we spotted this kudu, and I looked at it and I was like, man, I think that thing's huge, but I'm obviously not a PH and only been to Africa
Yeah.
once. So when Martin pulled his eyes off the spotting scope and looked at me, I knew right then and there, like, oh, this is special. This
Yeah.
is special. And yeah, man, it was we from the time we saw it initially to the time we actually pulled the trigger was about 3.5 hours. So there was a lot of mystery in between of if it was still down with those other smaller kudu that was with, and if the brush was super high. And so
when you went back, you went in February?
I went in February, yeah.
Okay. See, I've been 7 times. All have been in the summer months, which is their winter, except for after COVID. We went in February because everybody had, all the trips had been canceled for a year. So they were eager to get people in as quickly as possible. So that is not the typical time when you would, hunt kudu during the rut or when they're out in the open,
Yeah, they're still batcher grouped up, I guess you'd say, like our whitetails would do, and they were just on a feeding. That's it, really, just feeding.
Yeah.
So it was interesting going in February. It was a lot warmer than when you and I first went, and it was different, but it was fun. It was a lot of harder spotting just because there was so much green everywhere and so much foliage. But we had a good time for
Absolutely.
sure.
And what did the kudu? How big was it?
He was just under 60 inches. He was like 59 and some change.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
went to the tribal area. And the cool thing about that, if you're hunting on the East Cape, so Carl and John X have acquired some tribal land where essentially the kudu haven't been messed with for a couple decades.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the way, they got some kind of other genetic, maybe northern genetics, because the East Cape kudu is, if you get one that's over 45 inches, that's a nice bull.
Yeah.
I think I have a 47 and a 49, and then on the tribal lands, I shot one that was just under 54, which was good for me because 54 was the next price range up. So it was like 53 and change, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
It's nice, but it ain't that nice.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was an incredible bull, man, and
but
it
they
was a
have
fun
awesome
hunt.
genetics there.
Yeah, they do.
It's a special little gem that they have as far as a kudu resource.
Yeah, Martin was telling me, on that one, he still had his real sharp ivory points. Like he was in his last year before you would start to notice, as a mature bull, he's starting to fight more and break everything up and have all that rough stuff. He was just perfect all the way up. So
yeah. Well, so that's awesome. And you were planning on going, like we said, back in June. We'll see how your rehab comes along.
Yep. I only have 2 big animals on the list in June. So
what are they?
Water buck and giraffe.
Okay.
Awesome. And then everything else is going to start I haven't shot any spring bucks, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to, start on the smaller stuff. So.
And I'm taking my kid, so it'll be more about Henry I'm sure
Yeah.
I'll want to get a kudu. That's the one thing I always like to hunt in
Yeah.
Africa. But we'll just let him kind of go to town on some plains game.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That's
And
gonna
if
be real
anything's
cool.
too nice for him, I'll just say, "Give me the rifle." You know?
Yeah, give it to me, son. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun for
Yep.
sure. So
So how do we know each other? I mostly was aware of you from Instagram, and it was primarily fishing photos
yeah,
at the beginning.
yeah, yeah.
And I guess we've been friends for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years.
Yeah,
But actually, like, hung out and known each other for probably 4 years, I would guess.
yeah.
Where we've
So,
gone deer hunting, we've done duck hunting. Most recently, Henry came with me. We did teal and alligator in
yeah,
September. So that was awesome. He shot his first ducks on the, and who was I talking to? I did an interview with someone recently, and we were talking about, I think it was a guy from Ducks Unlimited, just how rare it is to get in a banger afternoon duck hunt.
yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
one like we were done in 20, 30 minutes or something. And a kid that's never shot a duck shot 6 in the face at 20 yards, you know?
It was incredible, man. It was an incredible hunt.
Yeah, that 410 rocking, yeah.
That was fun. They were coming in perfectly too. I mean, they were just setting up in the wind just right.
Yeah.
Couldn't ask for a better hunt.
And we were scouting for dove when we found him.
Yeah, quickly changed.
We're like, how far away is the house? Where are the decoys? Let's go.
Yeah, we made it too.
Get back over here as soon as possible.
Yeah.
That was awesome. But yeah, so as far as fishing goes, you in a previous life were a cop.
Yep, I was. And
the reason I was so big in the fishing scene is, most cops do extra job like security to make extra money and this and that. I always guided fishing trips. I got my captain's license when I was 18, so I'm had it now for 20 plus years. And that's kind of where I got my start. I started off in the bay, trout, reds, flounder, and just kind of worked my way up into the offshore thing. And that's kind of why everything was fishing based. I always hunted, always duck hunted, always deer hunted. But yeah, fishing was the big thing for me because it was a moneymaker for me.
Yeah, but not enough money to go to Africa multiple times.
No.
So life kind of shifted direction for you when it was through a relationship you made fishing.
Yeah, it was. It was a through relationship I made fishing.
I met a gentleman who I work for now, and he had a company, and I was basically his full-time captain. And I was still doing the cop thing, but it got to the point where the way the world is today in politics and 15 years of law enforcement, he offered me a way to come work for the company, which I learned a lot about being on the boat with the customers or him and his family, whoever it may be. I knew the ins and outs of the company before I started working here, just because, listening to people talk. And so, yeah, 6, 7 years later, here we are.
And I think maybe you told me this when we were in camp one time, maybe at the Pipkin Ranch duck hunting, but did you ever have to shoot anyone?
No. I had to hit somebody in my car on purpose.
You did?
And I tasered somebody who unfortunately didn't make it after he got tasered.
That's what it was.
Yeah. I should have shot him if I could have got my pistol, but my taser was my second option, and that's combination of drugs and being electrocuted to the side of the head didn't work out for him.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate, but you gotta protect yourself. And that's the crappy thing when I see police officers in the news these days. It's always because ultimately they were defending themselves, and then somehow the criminal is now the victim.
Yeah. If anybody in their right mind would have watched the dash cam video, this was prior to body cam, but if they'd have watched the dash cam video, you would have seen me getting my world rocked for a solid 6 or 7 minutes before I finally was able to get to something to use against him. So he was definitely a lot bigger guy than me.
And drug fueled,
didn't want to go back to prison. He was a registered sex offender against children, and he got caught in front of a victim's house by me, happenstancely. I didn't know that at the time until after, the investigation goes into why he did what he did.
Yeah.
So,
man, that sucks.
Yeah.
But I don't envy. I'm thankful for police officers, but I don't envy the situations that they find themselves in.
Yeah.
Especially
It
the
was
way they're neutered in society today, it seems like.
Yeah, when I first started, there was a lot of respect, and it didn't really get too bad in, the areas that I worked. I typically stayed with the sheriff's office and worked more rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see the way the world was going, and with two young kids, and I just wanted to be able to do something different. So this fishing gave me away via business connection. So,
but now you're not fishing for a living.
no,
You're in the corporate world.
I'm in the corporate world running a industrial service company based out of Beaumont, and we're actually a worldwide company. We have offices in 3 states, and we do work in about 6 different countries.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that opportunity has afforded you the ability to, pursue your passion of hunting all over the place.
Yeah, it has.
There has been one species, though, that I think has been a thorn in your side.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's elk, man. I don't know if I just got bad luck when it comes to elk hunting or what, but I just can't get it done.
How many times have you gone?
So I've gone 4 times, was supposed to go 5, and that the 5th time that I was supposed to go, which was a couple years ago, I've actually been since. But yeah, I got some money stolen from me, and
we'll talk about that in a second. But first, recap this year's hunt, because it was the sound you told me. I went out to West Texas, ended up shooting this elk / stag hybrid. Cool animal, not an elk, but 100% elk anyway. Tasted good. I just picked it up from the processor recently.
Yeah.
But that was the first year in a decade that I did an archery elk hunt.
Yeah.
You went up to Idaho? Is that where you went?
Yeah, Idaho.
And you had a terrible experience.
Horrible experience. So how this hunt even came about is
this guy didn't, quote, steal your money because you ended up going hunting, but essentially he stole your money.
Yeah. So the hunt came about because of a good friend of mine who lives up there. He's from Wyoming, but lives in North Dakota now. He went bear hunting in the spring with them and killed 2 bears, had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
The guide that he had was great. So he calls me up and he's like, hey, the guide I had for the bear hunt says they got some cancellation openings for a elk hunt. Cool. Well, sounds great. Let's do it. Not a bad price, let's go try it.
How much was it?
It's 4,500 plus licenses. So I was about 52 or 53 into it. By the time you count airfare, I was probably $6,000 into this hunt. And so we get there, and there's 2 of us. There's 4 hunters going to one camp and 4 other hunters going to another camp. So we get there and it's hot.
This is September, right?
It's September, but it's unseasonably warm for where we are. We're on the wet side of the Rockies, very thick wilderness area, and we're horsebacking in 9 miles. And so we meet the other 2 gentlemen that are going to hunt with us. One of them is a almost 80-year-old preacher from Georgia, and the other one is
and this dude's archery elk hunting?
Yes, but in Idaho, he was able to use a crossbow because of his age or handicap status. I'm not really sure. I didn't get into it with him. But
either way, if you're hunting elk in the mountains at 80 years old,
yeah,
you're doing pretty good.
Doing pretty good. Yeah. And then another guy who, very interesting guy, you sit in camp, you talk to people. He actually, I can't remember the exact name. Sled Heads or something was a company. It's kind of like motocross, but with snowmobiles. But anyways, it's apparently really popular up north. Me being a Southern Gulf Coast kid, I didn't know anything about it, but it was kind of a big deal for my buddies. Like, dude, I watched your stuff when I was in high school. It was pretty cool for them to hear them talk. But anyways, we all get our horses. We go up the mountain, get to this camp, and day 1 comes along. And we start, doing the elk thing, start running ridges, cow calling, just trying to get a response, and nothing. And I start, kind of paying attention. I'm like, man, I don't even see any deer sign, much less elk sign where we're at. And this hunt goes on for 7 days, and we're in day 5. And sitting at camp at night,
just kind of drinking a cup of coffee, talking about the day. Nobody's seeing anything. One of the other guides who chose this camp, apparently he was like kind of a head guide for the outfit, said that this camp had not been elk hunted in like 15 years.
Well, you would think that would be a good thing.
You would think, but you got to scout, and we were the scout crew for the year for them because we were the first hunters in there. And man, we went. We had one day we thought we heard one bugle, but when you're hoping and you're praying, it could have been a bird or anything else.
Like the breeze or something.
Yeah,
Well, same thing. Turkey hunting. Was that a gobble? I wanted it to be a gobble, but I can't really tell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I did notice the entire time that we were in this area, and we covered quite a bit of ground. We were doing 5-6 miles a day via horse and foot, was the amount of wolf sign. And they were very prevalent. You could hear them. We heard them on a couple different occasions. And I think that's what really drove everything out of that area.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask, like, you're in the Rockies in Idaho.
Yeah.
Should be, and if you're horsebacking in 9 miles, you should be away from everyone else.
You would think,
theoretically, other hunters should be driving the elk to those more remote places.
Exactly.
So there's
but the other camp
issue.
Went 4 for 4 on beautiful bulls. But that was the one that got scouted and the one that they hunted year in and year out, so knew where they were going. But the one thing I will say, I don't blame it on the guide that I had. Really good guy, knew what he was doing, genuinely wanted to put me on an elk, but I think he was handicapped by the outfitter, the owner of the outfit.
You feel bad for the guy at that point.
Yeah,
because
I did.
He's seeing exactly what you're seeing. You're not an elk guide. But you're also not a moron, and you know what elk sign looks like. You know what deer sign looks like, and you're like, this place is void of any type of served life form.
Exactly, and and when they're not talking in that country,
the guy has to stay upbeat, right? He's like, oh, come on, we just keep trying, and he knows we're just, we're just throwing something at the wall to see.
Exactly.
But
I will say that it being hot, I do think the bulls were shut down. There was some old elk sign in there, but nothing new, nothing fresh, last year stuff. And it was so thick, Cable, that you couldn't even get up high and glass for them. I mean, there was no glassing, no nothing. You had to have one talk to you if you were going to kill one. That's just the way it was. And everywhere else that I've been elk hunting, even though I didn't get elk, I still saw elk because I could glass. I could get up high, I could glass, and
7 days and you didn't see an elk.
Didn't see an elk. I saw one white-tailed deer, 13 black ground squirrels, and a couple partridge or whatever. Grouse, a couple grouse. That's it.
Oh man,
that's it. And then
how did you stay mentally upbeat?
Man, I camaraderie and just I'm not gonna lie. After day 5 or 6, I was pretty mentally spent and physically spent, and we were going to stay 8 days, and here comes the rain on day 6. Day 7, after raining for 12 hours, 24 hours now, because it started at noon on day 6 and it's noon on day 7, it's still raining. I looked at the guide and I said, let's just go. And he's like, man, we might stay up here 9 or 10 days. These horses can't go down these trails. I said, I will walk off this mountain. Get me back to civilization. I'm gonna audible and try again next year. Kind of deal.
With a different outfitter.
With a different outfitter. Yes. So, but
oh man.
Yeah.
Man. I have taken horses in quite a few times in New Mexico and pay to, be packed in. Basically a drop camp.
Yeah.
And then they take the horses out and then we tell them what day to come back and get us.
Get you, yeah.
And I always end up on the way back out because I'm physically beat to hell. I always just end up walking with the horse because it hurts my back so much to ride it. And I paid to ride this animal, and then I end up just walking. Yeah, like 7 miles, 8 miles. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that thinking back now about my ankle, I did have a incident on the horse where I caught my stirrup on a little spruce going by and twisted that ankle. Now it swelled up a little bit. Didn't hurt real bad. I thought maybe I, just barely,
aggravated it. But I'm starting to wonder now if that wasn't the beginning of what I finished, a month and a half later.
Yeah.
Because for me to have such a short distance to jump, I'm not a fat guy. I'm 180 pounds. So we're not going to talk about weight tearing my ankle.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that was something that I aggravated in Idaho and then finished it in Texas kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
how was your horse?
The first horse was a little rank. The second horse was great. But when we were saddling up to go, they asked us, anybody have horse experience? Well, I grew up on a horse in Winnie. You've seen the farm, you've seen the ranch, you've been around it. So, I mean, I figured I better take the ranker horse than the 80-year-old man. So that's kind of why I got that horse. But I mean, she wasn't bad. She was just she's a mountain horse.
I like horses, but I just they don't do well with my back situation. Yeah. But on my mountain lion hunt, which I did 3 hunts over 3 years, 18 days total with this guy, and it was funny because they had mountain horses, but he was like, "Nah," he's like, "You're a dude. You don't know anything about horses. I'm putting you on a mule." I was like, aren't mules like more cantankerous and stubborn, right? He's like, "Yeah, but they're more sure-footed." And so, I mean, we went up this rocky ledge at one point that was, to me, it looked like it was straight up and down. The mule slips and goes down on all fours. And he told me, he's like, "Trust me, the mule's like a 4-wheel drive. And these horses are like 2-wheeled, like sports cars." The mule goes down on all fours, and I'm on the mule, and I'm like, "Oh my God," what, and then it just womp, hops back up, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
But the last horseback hunt I did in New Mexico with my buddy Chisholm, we got on the way in, I was on this horse that had this complex about having to be at the front of the line. It didn't like to be anywhere near the back. And there's 3 of us, and then there was 3 or 4 pack horses, right? And the Wrangler. And so he kept trying to run up to the front, and I'm trying to, the whole time, like, number one, you're hurting my back when you're starting to run because we're all just walking, right? Do what the other horses are doing and walk, you asshole. And no, he had to try to run up to the front of the line. So finally, on the way out, I put up with it the whole way in. I was like, "Listen, man, that horse, it's not going to work for me. I'm having to fight it the whole time." He's like, "You ride my horse." I was like, "Okay, cool." So I ride his horse. We get to the bottom where the stable is, like towards the trailhead where they have their stable. And his dad rolls up in an ATV, and he's like, "What are you doing on that horse?" And I was like, "Well, mine was like being cantankerous, so we switched." He goes, "Oh, wow." He's like, "That horse, we got that horse because it killed a guy."
Oh my God.
He said, "You went from bad to worse. You're so lucky." He said, and the reason why I'm on a 4-wheeler is because it broke my ribs when it bucked me off.
Jeez.
Yeah. So they got the horse for free because it bucked a guy off on the mountain and killed him.
Wow.
Yeah. And then had bucked him off, and I was like, but yeah, man, I'll tell you what, the elk that me and my buddies have shot in New Mexico, we have packed from where we shot them to the trail and then used on Garmin or sat phone to text them GPS coordinates, say, "Hey, this is where it is. We'll hang it up. Come get it."
Yeah, that's cool.
That's way better than, and we're sometimes still having to move it 2 miles to a trail, right?
Yeah, to a trail.
All day adventure, but you don't have to pack it out.
Exactly.
8-10 miles, whatever it is. So I highly recommend getting in touch with a stable or some kind of wrangler if you are packing in on any western elk hunt. Okay, so your hunt this year sucked.
Yeah.
Your hunt a couple years ago just didn't happen.
Just didn't happen.
And so you had planned to go to West Texas.
Yeah. So basically decided I'm going to go ahead and go to West Texas where I can use a rifle in September and just get it done, because I've done the bow thing several years in a row and just never had a good outcome. I could have shot a bunch with my rifle, but never worked out with my bow. So I was like, you know what? It's time I go ahead and get an elk under my belt, because desperation has set in. And
well, that was desperation before this year. Now it's even
multiplied.
Worse. 7 days without seeing an elk.
Yeah. But man, so yeah, I booked a hunt and it did not come to fruition, and it's finally resolved itself this year.
So what happened? And you can say the outfitter because I want people need to know. Right?
Yeah. So I was looking on Instagram. I saw an outfitter posting elk trail cam pictures, Desert Safari LLC, and I reached out to them, and yep, we got them. We got 2 openings. Me and a buddy of mine booked, sent in our deposits, and
How much?
5,500 our deposit, and we were a piece, yes, yeah. And the whole hunt was going to be, that was half of the hunt, 11,000, and we were looking for 325 plus bulls, and we're told they're there. We're sent pictures of them, all these good things.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty standard. The hunt I went on this year in West Texas was $10,000.
Yeah. And so
thank you, Mossberg, for that.
Yeah. So I set this up in June, and he messaged us and says, hey, late August might be a good plan. We can catch them going to water, maybe a little rut activity. It's pretty patternable. Let's rifle hunting. Let's do late August. So mid-August rolls around, I don't hear anything. And so I message nothing. I try to, say what's the deal here. So it comes into September. I still haven't heard from the outfitter. I finally get in touch with the outfitter, and they say, "Oh man, we had a flooding rains. We couldn't access the ranch. Yada yada yada. Let's shoot for October." Okay, October 1st rolls around, no response. I'm like, what is going on?
At this point, you got the skepticism has to be.
Very very much so, and I reaching out to him, trying to get in touch with him, no response. I end up getting in touch with one of his guides, and his guide admits to me that the owner of the outfit is in rehab, and that's why he hasn't responded. Well, when he finally responds, it wasn't, "Hey man, I'm sorry, this is what's going on, life, etc." It's, "I'm dealing with a lot of shit right now. I'm getting divorced, and I've been in family court for my kids." And I was like, okay.
What about my $5,500?
Yeah. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, well, that sucked for you, but that's not my problem. And I asked him for a refund. He says, let's do this, let's do that. Offered me an all dad hunt, offered me this, offered me that. At this point, I just want to wash my hands and walk away.
Right.
So after almost a year trying to get my money back, he finally decides he's going to refund my buddy who went with me, or who was going to go with me, but completely ignores me. And so finally I had to get a lawyer involved.
So he refunded your buddy?
Yeah, he refunded my buddy, but didn't refund me after multiple requests. Yeah. And so I ended up getting a lawyer involved, filed a lawsuit. And I just found out last week that he defaulted on the suit, which means he didn't respond to it or nothing. So we're going to default judgment now, to see, what the outcome of the default is going to be. And talking to my lawyer, it's most likely going to be that he's going to have to at least pay me my deposit back, which is rightfully so.
So how much have you spent in court fees at this point? Was it even worth it?
No, but it was the principle of it.
Yeah.
For me, it really was. I mean, and I think that's probably what he thought. Well, this guy's not going to pursue anything because it's not worth his time or his troubles. But it was a principal thing for me at that point. And it just shows the character, and I still see him, and the funny thing was, Cable, one thing that really, really, really upset me is he was posting fun hunts that he was going on after he refused to refund me for my hunt.
Like what, for example?
Like he went on a New Mexico Gemsbach hunt. And mule deer, just all these different things. He's like, it was really, really fun for me to finally go hunt on my own and this and that. I'm sitting there thinking, dude, I'm glad my $5,500 paid for your hunt, theoretically. I mean, what the heck? And it's just a horrible experience. And it really has me, it was a learning experience for me, like researching your outfitter more. But then again, everything looked legit. And then obviously he's still running hunts. So did I catch him in a bad time of his life? I don't know, but it's not an excuse to take my money.
Right.
And be rude about it.
on top of that, the thing that really upset me was how rude he was about the whole situation. Instead of just being a, just talking it out with me.
Well, just apologize.
Yeah, just say, hey man, you hit me in a rough spot of my life. I'll be happy to make this right. I'm like, all right, brother, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, the whole situation rubbed me wrong. So that's elk hunt. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going next. I'm going somewhere.
Are you building points anywhere?
Yeah, I've got points in Wyoming, Montana. Where else? New
What about
Mexico.
Colorado? No,
I
don't. New Mexico doesn't have points.
Not New Mexico. Maybe. No, I think that's it. Wyoming and Montana right now. South Dakota. South Dakota Black Hills is the other one. Yeah, New Mexico is the no building. Just yeah. I did a New Mexico antelope hunt. That's the only hunting I've ever done in New Mexico.
Right on.
But no, I'm building points. I have a lot of points in Wyoming, so I'm hoping I draw there. Try again.
My buddy and I drew Wyoming in 2023 with we each had 5 points.
Yeah.
And we could hunt. You get a general. They have trophy units, but then with 5 points, you could just draw. I mean, you could pick like between 50 different units across the state.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't have to have a ton there. I think that same buddy and I are gonna burn our Colorado points this year. We each have 7 or 8.
I've never hunted Colorado. Montana is typically where I go. I do a lot of hunting in Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska. But
yeah. Well, I hope that that number one, your ankle lets you come to Africa, and then you're able to.
Yeah, me too.
To get on a big bull in September. When then we have you were supposed to go to Argentina with our crew.
Yeah, I was supposed to go
April.
Yeah,
and
work got in the way of that one.
Yeah. So you're going with me in 2026 for Red Stag.
Yep.
What else do you want to? I mean, so they have other animals. I'm sure you've looked at. What else?
Man, I've seen those black buck. I mean, I've shot black buck, but I've never seen those black buck.
Not like those.
No, not like those. Probably that. Man, who knows?
What about the water buffalo?
I probably would do it. I'll tell you one thing that I've never killed, believe it or not, is a fallow deer. Never shot a fallow, and I wanted to do it in Africa, but I just don't know. I know February wasn't the right time, and I don't know if June will be or not. So, but
they're sometimes busted up pretty good by June.
Yeah. So
spring's the best. Our spring is the best time for that.
Yeah.
Well, right on. So you also hunt a lot of whitetail.
I do.
Your son got his first buck. And I think he shot a doe also this year.
Yeah, he did it in opposite fashion. He shot the buck first and then doe. That was on Dad. When we went up there before I had my surgery, man, it was like the bucks were standing rock solid broadside at the feeder, and the does were just running around like, it was rutting time and everything like that. So this 7-point, he almost looks like a 6-point, but he's actually a 7-point. He was on our coal list, and he was just hot to trot, chasing does. And every time I'd get him on a doe, he'd bust in there, push her off the feeder. And we were on a doe at the feeder, and I got him set up in a bog pod, inside the blind where he's nice and steady. And where that doe was standing, that buck basically replaced her, and he goes, "Dad, I'm on him. I'm right on his shoulder. I got the crosshairs on his shoulder." I said, "Well, pull the trigger, boy." And wham, shot him and smoked him.
What caliber?
I have him shooting a 6.5 Grendel.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got it on an AR platform. I can move the stock in and out, and I've got it suppressed. So I mean, it's really, I wanted to have a bigger pill going down range for him, so that 123 grain Grendel's, the recoil's not really relevant, and it's just a nice little platform for him.
How old is he?
He's 6.
Yeah,
he's 6, and then I'm really worried about the killer that his little brother is going to turn into, because he has got the hunting bug so bad it's not even funny. He wants to go every time. He wants to be in the blind morning and night. And for Christmas, he got a little suction cup arrow bow set with a target, and he is very adamant about
wanting to be the best with that little suction cup bow and being able to shoot a bow next year. Next year I'll shoot a bow. Well, I doubt that'll happen, buddy, but we're gonna work on it till you get big enough to draw one back. But yeah, he's really big into hunting. Brooks is into hunting, but he really enjoys fishing more than hunting. I mean, he doesn't unappreciate the aspect of hunting and getting to shoot his first deer and his second deer, and he really loves eating them. We actually fried some backstrap up last night, and he's very proud to tell everybody that he ate his deer.
As you should be.
Yeah, as he should be.
That's so cool.
Both of them love that. So
yeah. So Stella shot her first doe this fall.
Very cool.
One of the twins, and she shot it in November, and she was 9. She turned 10 pretty quickly after that, and so we go down to South Texas last weekend, and Henry is always on the call buck list for my buddy's ranch, and she's like, "I want to shoot the call buck." I'm like, "You just shot your first doe like an hour ago. You don't have any say here." She's like, No, I want to shoot a buck. And I'm like, Who are you? It's Henry's buck. And there was a 6 point on the list, didn't come out, but I did sit with her one time. She was adamant she wanted to shoot a buck.
Yeah. Well, that's
so
good.
then on the way home, she starts a fight with Henry. She's like, "Dad, next year I'm shooting the buck." Henry's buck.
Yeah.
Henry's like, "The heck you are,
The heck you are."
I think I've created a monster with that one.
Hey,
and then Frankie shot her first deer, and we didn't find it. I think I told you about that off the air, but lots of blood, no buck, no deer.
That's it. Everybody loses them, Everybody.
Yeah, I just hate it to be the first one.
Yeah,
and she was the one out of all of them that I was like, Lord, please don't let that happen to her.
Yeah,
but she's a little more anxious about things in life, and really loves animals, but like not interested in vegetables. So she's like, literally hates vegetables. She's like, "Okay, well, you're not a vegan. You're not a,
better figure it out."
She's like, I want to pull the trigger. I want to shoot." I said, "Okay." Cool. So we'll still have to get her start her off with another doe next year.
Yeah. We need to do the Fredericksburg deal too and bring them down there.
Yeah, so we didn't get to do anything this year, and you'd even sent me a message saying, "Hey, you can just pick out some dates at the Pipkin," which is such a cool place. We hunted there with you last year, and you go and I have this book. I don't have it on my desk; it's over here on my bookshelf. But 100 Years of Texas Waterfowling, and the Pipkin Ranch is in there as like a historically significant duck hunting camp of the 1900s, and that's where we were. And you were like, "Hey, you can just bring whoever, go down there." And timing wise, it just didn't work out this year, but it's more fun when you're there anyway. So
yeah. Next year I'll be back in the game. So
yeah. Well, so what about fishing though? Because you still have an offshore boat, and and I sent you a message the other day because this outdoor writer Paul Greenberg, he's from New York City, and he does a lot of striper fishing right there in the river.
Yeah, right there.
He's written some books, and great writer. He messaged me. He's like, "Hey, when should I want to come to Texas, and I want to catch the most species and have the best fishing." He's like, "If it's not snapper season, I don't really care. I just want to have the most target rich environment for an offshore trip." And so I messaged you. I was like, "This guy wants to know March or May. What do you think?" And you're like, "Well, May would be better because of weather."
It's not because the fishing is any better. It's just you have more consistent weather patterns in May. We're very weather oriented over here on the Texas coast. So when it comes to being able to get out.
And you've invited me. I don't know. I've lost track of how many times I've come up with an excuse not to go offshore fishing with you. But one day I'm going to accept. So keep.
You come. I need to put you on a big blue marlin out of Texas.
Heck yeah. And you catch a lot of wahoo. Why do you like wahoo so much?
Man, number one, they're great eating. Number two, it was a fish that my dad was always obsessed with growing up, and I guess that rubbed off on me. And we weren't very successful at catching him. Everything we caught wahoo wise when I was a kid with him was happenstance, and I figured it out. Figured out the wahoo. Figured out where they are in certain times of the year, and got really consistent at catching them. So it's just fun, and they're fun fighting fish. They take a lot of line.
And it's very satisfying at the end. I love catching blue marlin. I mean, I caught 12 last year. Great fun fish to catch, but there's something satisfying about sinking a gaff in a fish after you fought him. So, and taking that fish back and eating them. And wahoo's so good so many ways. Just got a love for him, I guess, over the years. So,
would you say that in your time, you've been a captain on the coast, like you said, for over 20 years? How do you think the snapper fishery, and this is all, circumstantial evidence from your own experience, because Texas Parks and Wildlife can tell you one thing, NOAA Fisheries can tell you one thing, animal rights, or I guess in this case, fishing rights people can tell you, give you a whole nother set of data. But we have made progress because we don't have to manage it as this one Gulf Coast population, this one quota, like we did when I started the show 15 years ago. It was like, God, we're part of the same quota as Florida. Well, those fish aren't migrating to Texas, right? They're staying on that same oil rig for the majority of their life, or maybe moving one oil rig over. They're not going far. They don't have a reason
I've actually caught several tagged snapper over the years, and every single one of them that I've caught that have been tagged were tagged at the same spot that I caught them.
Really?
Years later. Yeah. One of them even was double tagged. Had 2 separate tags from 2 separate tagging trips to stay. But man, I will say that the state of snapper fishing now is better than it's ever been. There's more red snapper out there than ever that I can remember. Better quality, bigger fish. It's almost to the point that it's an annoyance, though. Typical spots where I would go grouper fishing, you can't catch grouper. I mean, for crying out loud, I've caught snapper on marlin lures on the surface, trolling around rigs on the shelf in 800 foot of water. That's not supposed to happen.
Right.
There's so many out there that it's affecting the other fishing. And
because you drop your bait down, and the first thing that's going to hit is a snapper.
And
the season's what? There's been times where it's been a weekend, right? We're past that now, so maybe it's
3 months.
3 months, okay.
3 months now, or a little under 3 months. But it's the way they make the seasons, the way they strategically do it. They, why not have everything open during snapper season? They don't. They strategically only allow snapper and certain fish during snapper season, and fish like amberjacks and certain groupers and stuff are closed. And it's just,
why they close amberjack during snapper season?
It doesn't make sense. But I will say too, I think we're getting to the point that the biomass of snapper is getting so large that they're literally eating the other fish that we used to fish for. I mean, they're literally, either eating the smaller grouper, or they're just competing for the food so much that it's driving those grouper away, or they're not around.
What kind of grouper are you usually after?
Scamps and gags are typically the shallow water groupers, and then if we're out deeper, snowies and yellow edge. But they're typically, they're past the typical depth that you catch red snapper in. They're 700-800 foot of water, so electric reel kind of stuff.
Okay.
But the shallow water groupers are the scamps, yellowmouth, and gags, and you just can't. We used to really be able to target them, and now it's so hard.
Snapper.
Yeah. Snapper.
Do you have a descending device on your boat?
Yes, got a descending. Well, it's all required.
Right. You have to have it legally.
Descending device and a venting tool, and you're only allowed to use circle hooks when you're using bait. I mean, there's just all these rules now to where it's just getting to the point. It's like, man, it's almost so regulated that it's not even fun anymore.
But sure is delicious, though.
It sure is delicious, but yeah.
Do you think wahoo's better than snapper? Snapper's my favorite.
I think it depends on how you're doing it. If you're wanting blackened fish, then obviously snapper's better. But if you want to pan sear it and cut it up like sashimi, then wahoo's the way to go. It's kind of plate dependent for me.
So I've never had wahoo sashimi. But I mean, we've always gotten back to Fisherman's Wharf and cut up the snapper and put a little soy sauce on it, like right there.
Snapper makes a great sashimi. I will venture to say that I enjoy wahoo, or ono, as a lot of people call them, better than tuna for sashimi. Yeah, it's just very clean, clear, translucent, very good meat. But yeah, I mean, they're part of the tuna family. They're not a mackerel like everybody thinks they are. They're actually part of tuna family. So
Not like a kingfish.
yeah, not like a king.
That is an oily son of a gun. And I have eaten plenty of those. And I like them.
I tell
But
you
some
what
people
I
are
do.
like, ooh. I'm like,
I like making. I'll take them and take the fillets and boil them in crawfish or crab seasoning, and then shred them up and make fish cakes out of them.
huh, okay.
They're really good. Or I'll smoke them on my pellet grill or my smoker, and then shred them up and make fish cakes out of them that way too.
Okay.
Pretty good. So
yeah, that's how I've done them: is smoked them or barbecued them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is your favorite time of the year to target wahoo? And what and as far as wahoo go, what is the style of fishing?
It's
you
trolling.
have it down. It's
trolling. Yeah, it's trolling. Right now is prime time. End of December when the first good cold fronts hit, all the way into March. I've caught them into April. It's when they congregate on the shelf. Spots like the flower gardens and all the little humps on the shelf. And when I say the shelf, we're talking about where it goes from 400 or 500 foot down to a couple thousand feet. You know, on the edge there, you have spots, upwellings that they congregate around. And then during the summer, they're harder to fish for because they're spread out. They'll spread out anywhere from 60 foot of water to 3,000 foot of water. I've caught them in everywhere in between. And so my favorite time of year is right now, where you can really find the congregations of them and really catch numbers. So
okay, right on. Well, my friend, I certainly appreciate the time today. It's great.
Absolutely.
Just it's like a mixed bag of hunting accidents and cool stuff we've done and not so cool stuff we've done, and mixed in with a little offshore fishing.
Yep.
But yeah, I hope that your rehab goes well. I mean, selfishly, I want you to come to Africa.
Yeah.
But, I also don't want you to have to cut your foot off.
Yeah,
so.
I definitely don't want to repeat what I went through last month. I don't wish that on my worst enemy, man. It was definitely an eye opener for me. I'm going to be a lot safer when it comes to working at heights from here on out. So
of a foot,
yeah, of a foot.
And I told you, I had a foot surgery. It was probably 6 or 7 years ago, and I just had like some nerve damage to cut out. It's called a neuroma, like a Morton's neuroma. It's just from I think playing sports is what they said for your.
We're kicking that soccer ball.
Yeah. And I tried. You want to know what snake oil? Infrared therapy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here, let me shine this, and it's gonna break up that nerve. No, I tried that. I tried cold fusion, like all this crap. End of the day, that stuff's junk. The only thing that was gonna work was cut it out of my body.
Yeah.
But I told you the pain. It hurt a lot, and I had one of those. Did you have one of those little scooter things that you put your?
Oh yeah. I lived on that
those.
thing, man.
I would scoot around the gym in that thing. But the worst pain was in the mornings. I would stand up, and all of that blood would rush to your feet. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was bad for you, but that was like the most intense.
Oh yeah.
Every morning, but then it would dissipate. But
that's why I didn't get out of a chair for 4 days.
Yeah. Here's my bucket. I didn't have to have a pee bucket. I'll tell you. But yeah, not fun. So and your injury is certainly way worse than what I went through. So I don't envy you, man.
Yeah.
Hope your physical therapy goes well.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to the light at the end of the tunnel. That's for sure. So.
Well, congrats on getting your kiddo's first couple deer. As we get older, and you saw it firsthand this year, but you take more joy in them pulling the trigger than you do yourself. And that's just
Absolutely.
The seasons of life.
More for them from here on out than me.
Yeah.
My deer kill numbers are going to go way down.
Yeah, and that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. But the big buck's not going to be for him.
No, not for a little bit longer anyway.
Right. Yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for the time. Take
it
easy.
Good talking to you, Cable.
All right. Bye. Oh, hey, what? No, we didn't even talk about the crazy thing. The crazy thing that was part of the reason we were going to.
Yeah.
So we on Friday night, you called me and you're like, dude, listen to what just happened. And I'll let you tell the story because it's insane.
Yeah. So Friday night, wife and I are out with some friends having dinner and drinks and all the good things. And on the way home, we stop and we pick up the youngest who was with her mother.
Out of curiosity, can you drive yet?
Yeah, I can drive again. Yeah.
Is it your right foot?
It is my right foot.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can drive again. But she was actually driving because I had she had one drink, I had 5, you know.
Right.
So obviously being responsible, especially with the kiddo in the car. And we're going home, and we stay on the feeder road because I-10 at night, whatever. You know, I've seen so many wrecks as being a cop up there. We just stay on the feeder road because it's empty. And as we're going down the feeder road, we pass this one bar on the way home, and a car pulls out to the point where she's got to, you know, kind of get on her brakes and slow down. Well, as it's in front of us, it's just driving erratically. I'm thinking, oh, great, drunk driver, you know. And I tell her, I said, look, when we get up on the 2-lane highway, just go around him, just pass him, get around him. So we go to do that, and as we pass, the vehicle just accelerates and gets right on us, and then like tries to get around us, and then gets back in front of us and starts brake checking us. I'm like, oh,
It's like
great.
real Christmas vacation type stuff here.
Yeah, and then I tell her, I said, look, I said,
Hey,
take
kids,
the
look
exit.
at deer.
Yeah, exactly. I said, you know, we're coming up on our exit to go to our house. And I said, look, just don't put your blinker on till the last minute. Don't give them an indication that, you know, this is where we're going.
Yeah.
And she puts her blinker on the last second, and he bails off the highway in front of us. I'm like, this is good. So we were coming up to a stop sign, and I was like really nervous about him jumping out and saying, you know, starting an altercation or whatnot. So I'm like, hey, hand me I didn't have it in my waistband at the time. I was like, hey, because drove there. So I was like, give me my pistol and my extra magazine out of the door panel next to you. So she hands it over. You know, I was a cop for so long. She's used to guns and don't bother her. So I got my pistol. I put it in my waistband, put my extra magazine in my pocket, and I'm thinking, okay, well, this could get ugly at the stop sign. And the car lets us get in the inside lane and turn, and then kind of comes in behind us. I'm like, oh, great. Well, we make it all the way to our driveway, and the car is still on our ass. And so we go to pull in, and I just tell her, I said, look, if this car pulls in our driveway or whatever, anything goes bad, drive to the yard and get out of here and just leave me be. So I come out with my pistol drawn. You know, they thankfully haul ass off, and, you know, just let us be. But it was a real eye opener for me because, you know, what if she would have been by herself with the kiddo? Of course, she has enough snap to know, you know, she's been told over the years living with me that, you know, somebody's following you, call 911, don't go to your house, keep driving to the cops, come get them, you know, go to a public area, whatever. But, you know, I got to thinking, man, what if it was somebody that wasn't privy to the you know, the ways of the,
So did they ever get out of there? It was a truck, right?
it was a truck. No, they never got out. I could see who was in it though. It was a couple Hispanic guys in the front seat. I couldn't tell if there was, you know, more than 2 of them, but there was 2 of them in there. And just crazy world we live in, man. You know,
Did you call the
especially
police?
called the police, and yeah, they tell me, they said, well, lucky for you, you know, I know all those guys too. So the lieutenant who was on duty, I trained him. He came up, you know, as a trainee for me. And he's like, man, they picked the wrong dude, didn't they? And I was like, yeah. I said, you know, this is the vehicle, this is the license plate. And he goes, well, we got a bunch of cops in your area right now. We're working a task force because there's been Hispanic gangs coming out of Mexico and Florida. I mean, not Florida, Houston, and stealing welding rigs and generators and trucks, and all kinds of things were going missing. So it very well could have been part of that situation. So they never found them, you know, which is not surprising. I mean, it's a rural area, they could have went any direction, you know. So, but it's just kind of a reminder that, yep, it's a crazy world. Carry your concealed or carry your open, whatever you can carry and legally in the state of Texas, you need to do it because it's you never know what's around the next corner. So,
well, crazy.
Yeah.
Say the least. Have someone follow you essentially home. Unprovoked like that.
Yeah. We weren't the ones that pulled out in front of him. That was the weird thing about the whole situation. Like, were they trying to bait us into something? You know, that's kind of my thought. But, you know, you think hindsight's 2020. And I'm sitting there thinking my law enforcement mindset, you know, from so many years of doing it, were they trying to bait us into an altercation, or what was their mindset and why they were doing what they were doing? I don't know, but it obviously wasn't. They obviously didn't want to come out and give me a high five.
Right. So. Yeah. Well, right on. Well, good stuff, man.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, Cable.
Good luck with that rehab. Talk to you later.
Talk to you soon, bud. Bye.
Bye.